Admiral Da watched the blue-green planet on his view screen. Earth looked small from space. He stood with his back straight and his 6 fingers locked behind him. His gray skin reflected the dim light of the command deck. "These humans are primitive," Commander Han said. He passed a data tablet to Da. "Their ships barely leave their atmosphere, but they learn quickly." Da studied the information. Humans had only started space travel 80 years ago. Now they had small stations orbiting their world and a base on their moon. Still, they were nothing compared to the hegemony. His people had conquered 34 species across 800 worlds. "Interesting," Da said. "They advanced from simple flight to space travel in less than 200 years. Han nodded. "Faster than most species, but they have no faster-than-light travel. No plasma weapons. No gravity manipulation." Da touched the screen, zooming in on Earth's largest cities. The humans built in strange patterns. Their buildings reached high but lacked proper symmetry. Their roads curved when they should be straight. "The Council wants this sector secured," Da said. "Earth sits at a useful junction between our territories." "Should we begin invasion preparations?" Han asked. Da considered this. The humans would fall easily, but damaged planets were less valuable. "No. We will try diplomacy first. The Council prefers willing subjects over conquered ones." Han bowed slightly. "I will prepare the diplomatic vessels." Da left the bridge and walked to the observation deck. Through the transparent wall, he could see Earth directly. Such a blue world, so much water. The hegemony's home planet had been dry, with precious water carefully managed. Perhaps that's why they expanded outward, seeking resources other worlds had in abundance. Lieutenant Kim entered the observation deck and waited for Da to acknowledge her. "Report," Da said without turning. "The diplomatic fleet is ready," she said. 5 ships, minimal weapons visible. We've prepared the standard first contact message in all Earth languages." "Good. Make sure the message emphasizes the benefits of joining the hegemony. Protection, technology, access to the Galactic Trade Network." "Yes, Admiral." Kim hesitated. "There's something else." Da turned to face her. Kim was young for her position, but sharp. "What is it?" "Our long-range sensors detected unusual energy signatures from Earth's orbit. The patterns don't match any known technology." "Show me," Da said. Kim activated her portable screen. A graph appeared showing energy fluctuations around Earth's larger satellites. "See these pulses?" Kim pointed to spikes in the data. "They appear random, but our computers found a pattern. They might be communications, but using a method we've never seen before." Da studied the pattern. It was unusual, but many developing species created unique technologies before joining the galactic community and standardizing. "Keep monitoring, but don't worry too much," Da said. "All developing species have technological quirks. Focus on the mission." Kim nodded but didn't look convinced. "One more thing, Admiral. The energy output from their orbital stations is much higher than needed for their reported functions." "Noted, Lieutenant. Anything else?" "No, Admiral." "Then send the diplomatic fleet. I want first contact established within 6 hours." Kim left and Da returned to watching Earth. He had overseen 17 first contacts and 5 forced integrations in his career. Earth would be simple. The Council would be pleased with another world added to their collection. 3 hours later, Da watched from his command deck as the 5 diplomatic vessels approached Earth. They broadcast the standard greeting on all frequencies. "Message received," reported the communications officer. "They're responding." The main screen showed a human face. The alien looked strange to Da, with its flat features and hair on top of its head. "This is International Space Command," the human said. "We welcome peaceful contact with your civilization." Standard response, Da thought. Most species reacted the same way, a mix of fear and curiosity. "We come in peace," Da responded through the translator. "The hegemony offers friendship and exchange of knowledge." The human's face remained calm. Too calm, Da thought. Usually there was more shock at first alien contact. "We would be pleased to meet in person," the human said. "We have prepared a space station for diplomatic meetings." Day raised an eye ridge. "Prepared? You anticipated our arrival." The human smiled slightly. "We've been watching the stars for signs of intelligent life. It seemed wise to have protocols in place." "Of course," Daz said smoothly. "We will dock at your station in 1 hour." When the transmission ended, Han approached. They seemed unsurprised by our appearance. "Yes," Daz said. "Either they are exceptional actors, or they knew we were coming." "Impossible," Han said. "Our approach was shielded. They have no technology that could detect us before we revealed ourselves." "So they claim," Daz said. "Prepare the diplomatic team. Full scans of their station before we dock." 1 hour later, Dai and a small team transported to the human space station. The meeting chamber was simple but functional. A circular table with chairs for both humans and hegemony representatives. 5 humans waited for them. They wore blue uniforms with different colored stripes on their shoulders. "Welcome to Earth Space Station Unity," said the lead human. "I am Director Park. These are my colleagues from various Earth nations." Day nodded in the formal hegemony greeting. "I am Admiral Dai of the Hegemony Diplomatic Court. We bring greetings from the 100 worlds of our alliance." The humans showed the proper respect, but something felt wrong. They were too composed. First contact usually involved more awe, more fumbling. As the initial meeting progressed, the humans asked detailed questions about hegemony culture, technology, and political structure. Their questions were pointed, specific, not the broad, confused inquiries typical of first contact. "How many species belong to your hegemony?" asked one human. 34 major species across 800 worlds, Dai answered. "All joined willingly?" another human asked. Day smiled. "The benefits of membership are clear to most. Some required more persuasion." Director Park nodded. "And what exactly does membership entail?" "Protection, technology, access to the Galactic Trade Network," Daz said. "In return, member worlds contribute resources and follow hegemony law." Resources meaning whatever a world produces best. Some provide minerals, others food, technology, or soldiers. The humans exchanged glances. Dag caught it, a moment of silent communication. After the meeting, back on his ship, Dag met with Han and Kim. "They knew we were coming," Han said. "Their questions were too precise." Kim nodded. "And their station. Did you notice the wall thickness? Their defensive capabilities are hidden but substantial." Day poured himself a drink of fermented grain. "Maybe. Or we're seeing threats where none exist. Many species are cautious with first contact." This felt different, Han insisted. They asked specific questions about our weapon systems, our fleet size, our FTL capabilities. Not normal curiosity. Day sipped his drink. "Keep watching them. Increase scanning, but proceed with diplomatic protocols." He set down his glass. "Even if they have some advanced knowledge, they are still centuries behind us technologically. They pose no threat." "I hope you're right, Admiral," Kim said quietly. "I've done this 17 times before," Daz said. "They're simply another species to bring into the fold. The Council will be pleased." From his window, Dai watched Earth turn slowly below. Such a rich world, full of resources the hegemony could use. If diplomacy failed, conquest would be simple enough. But something about these humans made him uneasy. They had looked at his officers not with wonder but with assessment, as if taking measure of a potential opponent. Nonsense, he told himself. They were primitive, barely space-capable. What possible threat could they pose to the mighty hegemony? 6 months had passed since the hegemony ships first appeared above Earth. 6 months of polite talks that went nowhere. The humans smiled and nodded during meetings, but made no commitments. They asked for time to consider joining the hegemony. They requested more information. They invited cultural exchanges. Admiral Day's patience was gone. "They are stalling," he told Commander Han as they stood on the bridge of the flagship. "The Council wants results." Han nodded. "Earth sits at an important position. If another empire reaches them first." "Exactly." Dai turned to the tactical display showing Earth and its solar system. "Prepare the battle fleet. 200 ships should be enough to show our seriousness." "Do you expect resistance?" Han asked. Dai laughed. "From them. They have a few orbital platforms and primitive ships that can barely reach their moon. No, this is just to impress them." 3 days later, the hegemony battle fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel near Earth's moon. The massive ships formed a crescent pattern, weapons systems powered but not yet active. On Earth, alarms sounded as radar stations detected the fleet. Emergency broadcasts interrupted regular programming. Military bases went on high alert. Admiral Dai sent a message to Earth's Unified Space Command. "This is Admiral Dai of the hegemony. Your time for deliberation has ended. I request an immediate meeting with your leadership." 2 hours later, Dai transported to the same space station where first contact had occurred. This time, he brought 20 armed guards. The station seemed emptier than before, with fewer human staff visible. In the main conference room, Director Park and 4 other humans waited. Their faces showed no fear, which annoyed Dai. They should be terrified. "Admiral," Park said, "we weren't expecting your return so soon." "Your delaying tactics have exhausted the Council's patience," Dai said. He remained standing while his guards positioned themselves around the room. "The hegemony requires an answer. Will Earth join us willingly, or must we demonstrate the consequences of refusal?" Director Park's expression didn't change. "We've been studying your proposal carefully. There are many considerations." "No more delays," Dai interrupted. He activated a holographic display showing his battle fleet orbiting Earth. 200 warships await my command. Each can destroy a major city with a single shot." The humans looked at each other. Finally, Park spoke. "We need to consult with our governments one last time. 24 hours to reach consensus across all nations." Dai considered this. It was a small delay, and the extra time would allow his fleet to finish positioning for potential attack. "You have 24 hours, he agreed. "Not 1 minute more." Back on his flagship, Dai ordered his fleet to spread out, surrounding Earth completely. Some ships positioned themselves over major cities: New York, Beijing, London, Moscow, Tokyo. "Make sure they can see us," he told Han. "I want every human on that planet to look up and know their fate rests in our hands." Han nodded. "Tactical positions are being assigned now. We'll be ready to strike if they refuse." Lieutenant Kim approached with a data tablet. "Admiral, our scans show increased activity at several orbital facilities. They appear to be evacuating civilian personnel." "Expected," Dai said. "They fear our response." "There's something else," Kim continued. "Several small facilities we've been monitoring have gone dark. Energy signatures disappeared completely." Dai frowned. "Hiding their activities, or simple fear?" "Unclear, sir. But their military communications have increased tenfold in the past hour." "Monitor everything," Dai ordered. "I want to know if they're planning some foolish last stand." Night fell over Dai's quarters as he reviewed reports. Earth's governments were in emergency sessions. Military forces worldwide were on highest alert. Some civilians had begun leaving major cities, creating traffic jams on highways. His door chime sounded. "Enter," he called. Lieutenant Kim rushed in, her usual calm demeanor broken. "Admiral, a ship has left Earth orbit and is heading directly toward us." Dai hurried to the bridge. On the main view screen, a single human vessel approached. It was unlike the other human ships they had observed. Sleek and black, with no visible propulsion system, it moved with surprising speed. "Just one ship," Dai laughed. "They send one ship to face our fleet." Commander Han studied the incoming vessel. It's larger than their usual orbital craft, appears to be built for combat. The ship's identification appeared on screen. TDF Thunder. Open a channel, Day ordered. A human woman appeared on screen. Her uniform was dark blue with red markings on the shoulders. This is Captain G of the Terran Defense Force vessel Thunder. We request direct communication with Admiral Da. I am Admiral Da. What is the meaning of this approach? Your 24 hours have not expired. Captain G's face remained professional, without emotion. I am authorized to discuss alternative arrangements to your ultimatum. Day smiled. There are no alternatives. Join the hegemony or face destruction. We cannot accept those terms as presented, Jai replied. I am authorized to propose modifications that might benefit both our peoples. Lieutenant Kim moved closer to Dai, speaking quietly. Admiral, our sensors are detecting unusual energy readings from that vessel. The power output is extraordinary. Day glanced at the sensor readings. The human ship was indeed producing energy levels far beyond what their technology should be capable of. For a moment, doubt flickered in his mind. Then he dismissed it. Even if the humans had some advanced power source, one ship could do nothing against 200. What kind of weapon signatures? Dai asked Kim. That's just it, sir. We can't detect weapons. But the energy pattern is unlike anything in our database. Admiral, Commander Han said, recommend we maintain distance until we assess their capabilities. Dai waved away the concern. It's one ship, likely a desperate attempt to appear stronger than they are. He turned back to the screen. Captain G, your ship is impressive for your technological level, but do not mistake our patience for weakness. Return to Earth. When your 24 hours expire, we expect your world's surrender. Jay nodded calmly. We will hold position here until the deadline. My government still hopes to find a peaceful resolution. The communication ended, and Day studied the human ship on the tactical display. It had stopped at a respectful distance from his fleet, but remained positioned between the flagship and Earth. A symbolic gesture, Han suggested, standing between their world and our weapons. Brave but foolish, Dai agreed. Keep weapons locked on that vessel. If it makes any threatening move, destroy it immediately. Hours passed. The Thunder remained in position, doing nothing. Occasionally, energy spikes registered on the hegemony sensors, but the human ship took no hostile action. Lieutenant Kim continued monitoring communications from Earth. Their military forces remain on high alert. Several submarine-based missile platforms have changed position. They appear to be preparing for conflict. Day snorted. Their most powerful weapons would barely damage our smallest ships. They must know resistance is futile. As the 24-hour deadline approached, Dag returned to the bridge. The human ship still hung in space before them. Silent. Open channel to the Thunder, he ordered. Captain G appeared on screen again. She looked as calm as before, showing no signs of stress or fear. Your time is nearly up, Dad said. What is Earth's decision? Earth respectfully declines membership in the hegemony under the current terms, Jai responded. Day felt a surge of anger. You choose destruction over prosperity. We choose independence, Ji said simply. However, we remain open to establishing diplomatic and trade relations as equals. Equals? Dai laughed. You are centuries behind us technologically. You have no position from which to negotiate. Ji's expression didn't change. Perhaps you should reconsider your assessment of our capabilities. Admiral. Admiral. Lieutenant Kim interjected urgently. The Thunder is powering up something. Energy levels are spiking dramatically. Day turned to his tactical officer. Target that ship and fire. Sir, Commander Han said, concern in his voice. Should we not attempt to understand what? Fire. Dai ordered again. Show them the consequence of defiance. The tactical officer pressed the firing controls. From the hegemony flagship, a bright beam of energy lanced out toward the Thunder. What happened next would change the course of galactic history forever. The 24 hours had passed. Earth's answer had come through Captain G of the TDF Thunder. They would not surrender. They would not join the hegemony. Admiral Dai stood on his command bridge, looking at the tactical display with narrowed eyes. The single human ship still hung in space, positioned directly between his fleet and Earth. Such a pointless gesture, he thought. They've made their choice, Dai announced to his officers. Begin the attack. Target their major population centers. New York first, then Beijing. Commander Han nodded and relayed the orders. 20 hegemony warships moved forward, their weapons powering up. Green lights flickered across the tactical display as targeting systems locked onto Earth's cities. Sir, Lieutenant Kim said, her voice tense, the Thunder is moving to intercept our attack force. Day watched as the human ship adjusted its position, maintaining its place between the fleet and Earth. Let them watch as we destroy their world, Daz said. Then we'll deal with their little ship. The lead ships of the attack group fired their main weapons. Brilliant beams of energy streaked toward Earth, aiming to pierce the atmosphere and strike the cities below. But the beams never reached their targets. The Thunder suddenly glowed with a strange blue light. A shimmering field expanded outward from the ship, growing rapidly until it formed a massive shield between Earth and the incoming attack. When the hegemony weapons struck this field, they simply vanished, absorbed completely, with not even a ripple to show they had hit anything. Silence fell across the command bridge. What just happened? Da demanded. Lieutenant Kim frantically checked her sensors. The Thunder somehow absorbed all weapon energy. No damage to the ship or the planet. Impossible, Da hissed. No shield technology can do that. Fire again. More ships joined the attack, dozens of energy beams converging on the Thunder and its strange shield. Again, the weapons were simply absorbed, as if they were nothing more than light hitting a black wall. A communication came through on the open channel. Captain G's face appeared on screen, as calm as before. This is your only warning, Admiral Da, she said. Withdraw your forces immediately. Day stared at the human in disbelief, then anger washed over him. How dare this primitive creature give him orders? All ships, he shouted, concentrate fire on the human vessel. I want that ship destroyed now. The entire attack group turned their weapons on the Thunder. 50 ships fired simultaneously, creating a massive barrage that should have vaporized any vessel, no matter how advanced. The Thunder's shield glowed brighter but held firm. Then the human ship responded. From points along its hull, beams of blue-white energy lanced out. They moved strangely, not in straight lines, but in curves, weaving through space like living things. The hegemony ships had no time to react. The beams simply passed through their shields as if they weren't there and struck the ships directly. 5 hegemony vessels exploded simultaneously. Commander Han stared at the tactical display in horror. Impossible. Their weapons, they're penetrating our defenses like they don't exist. Lieutenant Kim's fingers flew across her control panel. The energy signature is like nothing in our database. It's as if the beams exist partially in another dimension. More hegemony ships fired, and more were destroyed in response. The Thunder moved with impossible speed, its weapons striking with perfect accuracy. 10 more ships exploded, then 15. Day gripped the arms of his command chair, shock giving way to rage. Continue the attack. They cannot stand against our numbers. The battle expanded as more hegemony ships joined the fight. Some tried new tactics, attacking from different angles. Others attempted to slip past the Thunder to reach Earth directly. None succeeded. The Thunder seemed to anticipate every move, countering with terrible precision. When 3 ships attempted to flank and attack from behind, the Thunder simply vanished, reappearing instantly behind them and destroying all 3. They have teleportation technology, Han gasped. Impossible, Day repeated, but the word had lost its meaning. Everything happening was impossible. On the tactical display, the count of destroyed hegemony ships climbed steadily. 30, 40, 50. Captain G's voice came through again. Admiral Day, you have lost 62 ships. We have suffered 0 casualties. Reconsider your position. Day snarled at the screen. Never. The hegemony does not surrender to primitives. He turned to his tactical officer. Launch all fighters. Surround that ship. They cannot be everywhere at once. Hundreds of small fighter craft poured from the larger hegemony vessels, swarming toward the Thunder like angry insects. For a moment, it seemed this tactic might work. The Thunder could not target all of them at once. Then the human ship did something new. A pulse of energy expanded outward in all directions. It wasn't a weapon blast. It carried no destructive force. But as it passed through the fighter swarm, every craft simply stopped. Engines died. Weapons systems went offline. They drifted in space, powerless. An energy-dampening field, Kim suggested, voice shaking, but operating on a scale I'd never seen. Day stared at the battle unfolding before him. His mighty fleet was being systematically dismantled by a single vessel, a vessel from a world that supposedly had only achieved spaceflight less than a century ago. This is not possible, he whispered. They must have stolen this technology. Or, a terrible thought struck him, or they've been hiding their true capabilities all along. Commander Han approached, his usual composure broken. Admiral, we must withdraw. We've lost nearly half the fleet. Whatever technology they're using, we have no defense against it. No. Daz slammed his fist on the arm of his chair. The hegemony does not retreat, especially not from a species that has barely left their own planet. Sir, Lieutenant Kim interrupted. Look at the Thunder. On the view screen, the human ship was changing. Sections of its hull were shifting, reconfiguring. What had appeared to be a sleek vessel was transforming, revealing weapon systems that had been hidden beneath its surface. What is it doing? Dai asked, a note of fear finally entering his voice. I believe, Kim said quietly, it's showing us what it's truly capable of. New weapon ports opened along the Thunder's hull. Energy readings spiked to levels the hegemony sensors could barely measure. Captain G's voice came through one more time. Admiral Day, this is your final warning. The Thunder has now activated its primary weapon systems. The previous engagement was conducted using only defensive capabilities. If you continue this attack, we will be forced to demonstrate our full offensive potential. Day stared at the screen, at this human who spoke so calmly while destroying his fleet. For the first time in his long military career, he felt true uncertainty. You're bluffing, he said, but his voice lacked conviction. Captain G shook her head slightly. We do not wish to destroy your fleet. Admiral, humanity prefers peace, but we will defend ourselves with all necessary force. Commander Han leaned close to Da. Sir, recommend immediate withdrawal to regroup and reassess. Day ignored him, his eyes fixed on the Thunder and its transformed shape. Pride and fear warred within him. To retreat would shame the hegemony. To continue might destroy it. Admiral, Han pressed, we're receiving distress calls from 17 more ships. Their systems are failing after contact with some kind of energy field from the Thunder. Day made his decision. All ships, he commanded, intensify the attack. Target that vessel with everything we have. They cannot withstand the combined firepower of our remaining fleet. The order went out. Across the battlefield, the remaining hegemony ships turned their weapons on the Thunder. The human ship waited, glowing with power, as the attack approached. What happened next would be remembered in the annals of the hegemony for generations to come. The battle had raged for nearly an hour. Debris from destroyed hegemony ships littered space around Earth. Admiral Dai watched the tactical display with growing horror as more red lights winked out, each representing another lost vessel. How is this possible? He whispered. His mighty fleet was being systematically destroyed by a single human ship. Lieutenant Kim's hands trembled as she worked her sensor station. Admiral, we've analyzed some of the Thunder's weapon signatures. They're using some kind of quantum phase technology. The weapons exist partially in normal space and partially somewhere else. Explain, Dad demanded. They're shifting their energy beams into another dimension to bypass our shields, then shifting back into our dimension inside our ships. Kim looked up, her eyes wide. Our sensors can barely track it. Commander Han pointed to a new formation of ships moving to engage the Thunder. Assault Group 7 is attempting to surround them. On the view screen, 12 hegemony warships moved in a tight pattern, approaching the Thunder from different angles. For a moment, it seemed they might succeed in boxing in the human vessel. Then the Thunder simply vanished. Where did it go? Dai shouted. It's behind them, Han cried. The Thunder had somehow teleported instantly behind the assault group. Before the hegemony ships could react, blue-white beams lanced out, destroying 5 vessels in seconds. The remaining ships tried to scatter, but the Thunder moved with impossible speed, picking them off one by one. They're anticipating every move we make, Han said. It's as if they know our battle protocols. Dai's mind raced. Had the humans somehow obtained hegemony military information during the 6 months of diplomatic talks? Had they been preparing for this confrontation all along? On the Thunder's bridge, Captain G sat calmly in her command chair. The bridge was unlike any on a hegemony vessel, sleek, minimal, with officers working at stations that seemed to respond to thought as much as touch. Status report, Jai requested. Her weapons officer responded without looking up from his console. 97 enemy vessels destroyed. No damage to Thunder. Shield capacity at 92%. G nodded. The battle was going as expected. For decades, Earth had been preparing for this moment, ever since the first alien ship crashed in a remote area and humans discovered they were not alone in the universe. The hegemony is regrouping, her tactical officer reported. They're forming a defensive perimeter around their flagship. Jai studied the display showing the remaining hegemony fleet. They still outnumbered the Thunder, but numbers meant nothing against Earth's hidden technology. It's time to end this, she decided. Activate the gravity wells. Her chief engineer nodded. Gravity wells charging. Ready in 10 seconds. Back on the hegemony flagship, Lieutenant Kim noticed new energy readings from the Thunder. Admiral, the human ship is powering up something different. Energy patterns suggest gravitational manipulation. Before Dai could respond, space itself seemed to warp around his fleet. At first, it was subtle, a slight distortion visible only on instruments. Then it became visible to the naked eye. Space twisted and folded, as if someone were pinching the fabric of reality. Small black spheres appeared at various points throughout the hegemony formation. They were no larger than shuttlecraft at first, but their gravity was immense. What is this witchcraft? Dai shouted as his flagship shuddered. The black spheres were growing, pulling at everything around them. One sphere formed near a hegemony cruiser. The ship's hull began to bend as the gravity pulled it in different directions. Metal screamed as it twisted. Then the ship simply broke apart, chunks of it spiraling into the tiny black hole. Artificial singularities, Kim gasped. They've created miniature black holes. Impossible, Dai shouted. That technology is theoretical even in our most advanced research. Evasive maneuvers, Han ordered. All ships, maximum thrust. But there was nowhere to run. The gravity wells had been precisely placed throughout the fleet formation. Ships that tried to escape one singularity found themselves pulled toward another. Dai watched in horror as 20 more ships were torn apart or crushed by the intense gravitational forces. The flagship itself groaned as metal strained against the pull. Emergency power to structural integrity fields, Han ordered. On the Thunder, Captain G watched the hegemony fleet's destruction with no joy, only grim resolution. This was not a battle Earth had wanted, but one they had spent 50 years preparing for. Captain, her communications officer said, Admiral Dai is broadcasting on all frequencies. On screen, Jai ordered. Dai's face appeared, his usual composure shattered. Behind him, the bridge of his flagship was in chaos. Consoles sparked. Officers shouted emergency orders. "What are you?" Dad demanded. "No developing world could have this technology." "We never claimed to be a developing world," Jai replied calmly. "That was your assumption, Admiral." The gravity wells continued their work. More hegemony ships vanished into the miniature singularities. Others collided with each other while trying to escape, creating more debris. The Thunder moved through this chaos with perfect precision, its weapons striking any ship that managed to avoid the gravity wells. It seemed to anticipate every evasive maneuver, every desperate counterattack. Lieutenant Kim stared at her sensors in disbelief. "Admiral, the Thunder is moving through the gravity fields without effect. They're somehow immune to their own singularities." Dad's flagship rocked violently as another nearby vessel exploded. "Status report," he demanded. "We've lost 133 ships," Han reported, his voice hollow. "The remaining vessels are scattered and damaged. We cannot maintain formation." Through the increasingly static-filled communication channel, Captain G addressed Dai again. "This is your final chance, Admiral. Surrender or be destroyed." Dai stared at the human captain. In her eyes, he saw not hatred or anger, but simple determination. She would destroy his entire fleet if necessary. For a moment, Dai considered surrender. It would be the logical choice. His fleet was decimated, his mission a catastrophic failure. But surrender meant shame. It meant returning to the Hegemony Council as the Admiral who had been defeated by a supposedly primitive world. His pride wouldn't allow it. "The Hegemony does not surrender to primitives," Dai snarled. "All remaining ships target their vessel with everything we have." The order went out. The surviving Hegemony vessels, scattered and damaged as they were, turned their remaining weapons toward the Thunder. On the Thunder's bridge, Captain G sighed softly. "They've made their choice," she said to her officers. "Prepare the final sequence." The Thunder began to glow with a different light, not the blue-white of its weapons, but a deep, pulsing purple that seemed to bend the light around it. "What are they doing now?" Han asked, a note of fear in his voice. Lieutenant Kim checked her readings, then looked up with wide eyes. "Admiral, I think they're creating a controlled tear in space-time." Dai stared at the view screen, at the Thunder glowing with its strange purple light. For the first time in his life, he felt true fear. Whatever the humans were about to do, he knew his fleet would not survive it. "All ships," he said quietly, "prepare tow." He never finished the order. The purple light from the Thunder suddenly expanded outward in a perfect sphere. As it touched each hegemony ship, the vessel simply disappeared. Not destroyed in an explosion, not torn apart by gravity, but erased from existence as if it had never been there. Dai watched ship after ship vanish as the purple sphere expanded toward his flagship. In his final moments, one thought consumed him. We never knew what humanity really was. The purple wave reached the flagship. Dai felt a strange sensation, as if reality itself was being rewritten around him. Then nothing. Admiral Dai stood in the smoking ruins of his command bridge. Emergency lights cast red shadows over broken consoles and dead crew members. The mighty flagship of the Hegemony fleet was now just a floating wreck. Through the cracked view screen, he could see the debris of his once proud fleet scattered across space. 200 ships, gone, destroyed by a single human vessel. Dai's six-fingered hands shook as he tried to help an injured officer. His uniform, once pristine, was torn and stained. For the first time in his long military career, he had failed completely. "Admiral," Lieutenant Kim said weakly from her damaged station, "the human ship is approaching." Dai looked up. Through the view screen, he could see the Thunder moving slowly toward the crippled flagship. It showed no battle damage at all. Its sleek black hull absorbed the light from nearby stars, making it look like a hole in space itself. "Prepare for boarding," Dai ordered, his voice hollow. "No resistance. We have lost." A strange humming sound filled the air. and then flashes of blue light appeared on the bridge. When the light faded, Captain G and 6 human soldiers stood there. They wore black armor with blue lights running along the seams. Their helmets completely covered their faces, showing only reflective visors. The human soldiers quickly secured the bridge, checking for weapons and threats. They moved with practiced efficiency, as if boarding enemy vessels was something they did every day. Captain Joy stepped forward and removed her helmet. Her short black hair framed a face that showed neither triumph nor anger, only a calm professionalism that Dai found more disturbing than any celebration of victory would have been. "Admiral Dai," she said, "in the name of the Terran Defense Force, you are now our prisoner." Dai looked at this human, this member of a species he had dismissed as primitive just days ago, and felt something break inside him. "How?" he whispered, his composure finally gone. "How could one ship destroy an entire fleet? You were supposed to be primitives. You barely left your planet a century ago." G smiled thinly. "That was what we wanted you to believe." She reached to her wrist and activated a small projector. A holographic image appeared in the air between them, showing Earth's solar system. At first, it seemed normal, just the planets and moons Dai had studied before this mission. Then the image changed. Hundreds of small dots appeared, hidden behind moons, within asteroid belts, disguised as space debris. Each dot began to glow, revealing itself as a ship. Some were small, like the Thunder. Others were massive, dwarfing even Dai's flagship. The Thunder was merely a demonstration, Jai explained. A single example of our defensive capabilities. Dai stared at the hologram in shock. An entire fleet, hidden. Impossible. Our scans would have detected them. Your scans detected what we wanted them to detect, G said. We've known about your hegemony for decades, Admiral. Every species you've conquered has sent warnings ahead through hidden channels. Some escaped. Some sent automated beacons. We listened, and we prepared. Dai sank into a damaged chair, his mind struggling to understand. Decades, but first contact was only 6 months ago. Jai laughed softly. Official first contact, yes. But one of your scout ships crashed on Earth 50 years ago. We recovered its database. We learned about the hegemony and its methods. 50 years? Dodd whispered. Impossible. The Council would have records of a lost scout ship. The ship was on an unauthorized mission, G said, looking for resources to claim before reporting back. We found records in its computer. Your empire is not as unified as you pretend, Admiral. Dai's world was collapsing around him. Everything he believed about humanity, about his mission, about the hegemony itself, all of it was wrong. What happens now? He asked quietly. Now, Jay said, you and your surviving crew will be taken to Earth as prisoners of war. You will be treated according to our laws, humanely, with proper medical care and fair treatment. And then we begin the real work, G said, dismantling the hegemony's control over other species. Days passed. Dai and the surviving officers were transported to Earth, to a facility built specifically for alien biology. The humans provided food, medical care, and quarters that respectfully accommodated hegemony physiology. It was not what Dai had expected from a victorious enemy. From his room, Dai could see outside through a large window. The human city stretched into the distance, its buildings and vehicles so different from those in hegemony worlds. People moved about their lives, seemingly unconcerned that a major space battle had just occurred above their planet. 1 week after his capture, Captain J came to visit. You're being given access to information feeds, she told him. The Council should know what's happening. She showed him how to use the human information system. Dai was surprised by how freely they allowed him to view their news. What he saw shocked him even more than his defeat. Ships were arriving at Earth, not human ships, but vessels from across the galaxy. Many carried representatives of species Dai recognized as hegemony subjects. The Viridians with their crystalline skin, the 6-limbed Carthos, the aquatic Melosians. They were coming to Earth, not as conquered subjects, but as hopeful allies. One news report showed a Viridian ambassador meeting with human leaders. For 2 centuries, we have lived under hegemony rule, the Viridian said. Today, we seek alliance with the humans who have proven the hegemony can be defeated. Another report showed human ships helping Karthos refugees. The humans were providing food, medicine, and protection to those fleeing hegemony space. You're dismantling our empire, Daz said when Jai returned the next day. We're offering freedom to those who want it, she corrected. Many worlds joined the hegemony because they had no choice. Now they have an alternative. The Council will not allow this, Dai warned. They will send more ships, bigger fleets. They will destroy your world for this insult. Ji didn't seem concerned. The hegemony's power was built on fear and the belief that resistance was impossible. We've proven otherwise. More weeks passed. Da was allowed to walk in a garden specifically designed to be safe for his biology. Human guards watched him, but they were respectful, even curious about him. One day, Ji brought unexpected visitors to see him. 2 hegemony citizens, not prisoners, but diplomatic representatives. The Council has requested negotiations, one told Da. The humans have destroyed 3 more fleets that were sent after the first. The Council is reconsidering its position. Day couldn't believe what he was hearing. The hegemony does not negotiate with lesser species. The representatives exchanged uncomfortable looks. The Council now recognizes that humans may not be a lesser species, Admiral. Day was given a data tablet to write his observations and experiences. At first, he intended it as a report for the Council, an analysis of human weaknesses they could exploit. But as days turned to weeks and weeks to months, his writing changed. He began to see humanity differently. They were not the primitive beings he had first judged them to be. They were complex, adaptable, and most surprisingly, merciful in victory. In his private journal, he wrote, "I have witnessed the fall of the hegemony's dominance, not through overwhelming force, but through the cunning of a species that understood something we never did. That true power lies not in conquest, but in the ability to unite against tyrants." He paused, considering what he had learned about humans in his time as their prisoner. The humans were never prey, he continued writing. They were the predators, waiting for us to make our move. But unlike the hegemony, they do not seek to dominate those weaker than themselves. They offer protection and alliance instead. Day looked out his window at the human city. In the distance, he could see a building where representatives from a dozen formerly subjugated species now met regularly with human leaders. Perhaps, he wrote in his final entry, the hegemony's greatest mistake was not underestimating human technology, but human character. They defeated us not because they were stronger, but because they gave hope to those we had conquered. And hope, I now understand, is the most powerful weapon of all.